Thank you for joining. So basically, today we are going to talk a little bit about what's VMware Green Plum and also a little bit about myself first. So let me go through the agenda. So I'll start off with introducing myself a little bit more, and then we will talk about the Tanzu data portfolio. What do we carry other than the Green Plum itself? And we'll go through, for those who are new, about the history of Green Plum and what is Green Plum and how does it bring to this modern analytics platform. And we'll come to the main topic to talk about what do we mean by any data anywhere, right? And subsequently, we'll talk a little bit about some of our use cases with some of our existing customers that we have, right? So just a little bit to share about myself. So as per the introduction, I've been working 16 years in the industry with data products. So prior to joining the Tanzu Green Plum team, I've been working on other software and data products like Oracle, Postgres. So mainly all the data products that we have seen today are mainly seen or used in the data industry, right? So basically, I've been certified in Oracle, SQL Server, and all the other database products that we have used before, right? So on to our Tanzu data portfolio. So before we go to Green Plum, I would just like to introduce a little bit about our data portfolio, right? So Green Plum is actually part of a very huge data portfolio that we carry in VMware Tanzu, right? So under the VMware Tanzu data portfolio, we actually have a list of different data products like data management services, MySQL, Postgres database integration. We have Gemfire for fast in-memory data store, and we also carry the RabbitMQ for high throughput broker. The topics will be covering mainly on the Green Plum and the analytics platform portion, right? So a little bit about the history of Green Plum for those who maybe have heard of it for the first time. So Green Plum actually started very early in the 1980s, right? So from an open source product in 1995, Green Plum actually evolves from Postgres in 1995, and the Postgres 7. Postgres 7 was released in year 2000, and subsequently we adopted the Postgres version 8 in 2005 into the Green Plum based version, right? So subsequently, over the years, Green Plum has been developed and released. As you can see, now we are at version 6. So over the years, we have integrated other different kinds of plugins and things like Madlib and other analytics products to be plugged into the platform itself, right? So at the moment, Green Plum is an open source product, but we do carry the enterprise version of Green Plum for support, right? So what is Green Plum for those who is new to this massive parallel processing platform, right? So Green Plum is actually based on Postgres, as mentioned in the history, right? So it's actually a network Postgres segment operating as a MPP database, right? So it is based on the shared networking architecture, which later on we'll explain what is the MPP shared networking architecture. So it basically is a cluster of segments that works together, right, to give you the high performance data warehouse that you see today, right? So it's optimized for your OLAP and analytics workload. So it can actually manage huge volumes of data. So most of the time we have data size from up to a few hundred terabytes to even petabytes of information, right? So it is infrastructure agnostic, which means that we are able to run on different kinds of platform from public cloud, private cloud, bare metal, and also containers, right? So no vendor lock-in means that it has an open source version plus a community version, and there is no lock-in because there's no proprietary stuff that is tagged along with the versions. So we are able to move from one versions to another very easily. So there's no tie down or vendor lock-in on this case, right? So it has a very predictable pricing model, right? And it is very easy to understand because there is no complex kind of pricing model for the licensing. It's just a simple, straightforward licensing, and you get to use all the features within the license package, right? And also, because we are a modern analytics platform, so we support modern ML, AI, geospatial text search and streaming, which we will go through later on. So just a quick overview look at what are the features, which we will go in details later. So there's a wide range of features that comes with the enterprise version of Plum, right? So you can see on the right-hand side, those are the enterprise extra features. And then we have our inbuilt data packages such as Python, R, and MATLAB machine learning. All these are actually packaged part of the software and licenses. So we will go through in more detail what are the other features that you will see in the later part of the presentation, right? So just a quick overview for those who are new to the MPP Shared Nothing architecture framework. So Plum actually, you can imagine it as a cluster of segment servers working together as one entity, right? So basically you have your master host, which manages all your segment hosts, and all your data is actually stored on your segment host in a parallel format, right? So it is actually distributed evenly across all your segment instances. So basically, when you run your processing or your SQL through your master host, all the segments actually work together in parallel at the same time to process the query or the workload that you have ran, right? Hence, you get the term multi-parallel processing server, right? So it goes through a high interconnect network pipeline, which transmits the data and the information between your master and your segment servers, right? So we'll talk a little bit about our next generation data platform. So this is just a quick review based on the Gartner report. You can see that Plum is actually ranked as the #1 open source data warehouse in the world, right? So there are a few reasons why we are rated as the #1 open source data warehouse, because there is a performance at scale, and we are open source. And this means that there is a lot of contributors in the community, which actually contributes to the new features and the new things that are launching in the market today, right? So there is a huge community behind this open source version, and then all the contributions will go through the testing and launch as the enterprise version, right? We also comes with in-database analytics, which we will see later on how it works. So just a quick run through. So in Plum 6, Postgres 9.4 has been integrated and merged, right? So you can see as of the version 8.4 to 9.4, the number of total open source code commits is about 11,000. So this emphasizes on the point of why we are the #1 open source data warehouse, right, in the industry. It is due to the huge amount of contributions and coming from the main open source community also. So it has a strong support from the open source community and both on the enterprise side also. So we talk a little bit about historical traditional data warehouse process, right? I believe a lot of us are very familiar with this kind of processes where you have your different source system and you run the ETL integration through your operational data store, and then you have your centralized data warehouse, data mart, and then you move on to your virtualization, reporting, and data mining, right? So in today's trend, we can see that data is growing very fast, right? So the rate at which you can see since maybe 2018, 2019, especially with COVID coming in, the amount of data that we are processing every day has surged tremendously and is expected to continue to surge until maybe in the near future, 2025, right? So everything is to do with data, and it has grown exponentially in a fast manner. right? So some of the common problems we often hear, right, from our customers or from users, right? Things like data is growing too fast, but the scaling is very difficult and expensive, right? So data lake is good for storing information, but the SQL queries are not performing as well as it was expected, or moving data from to a different data science tool is inefficient, and it creates a lot of governing issues. Things like training our ML models take hours, not days. It's taking a long time to do that. Or how can I benefit from cloud database in my private cloud environment? So as you can see, the current landscape for data is actually very wide. So there is a huge amount of products, services, and things like that in the data landscape. So how are we going to find the correct tool and the correct system and platform to integrate everything that we need in an organization, right? Out of the big sea of products and services, right? So this is where we come in as the value proposition. So VMware Tanzu Green Plum value proposition, we have actually 3 key value levers that we actually want to deliver to everyone, right? So usually our main focus for analytics is we want to increase your ML performance, right? Your machine learning performance, which is one of the key problem statements that you see just now, right? You can either start small with a virtualized platform, and then, or you can rewrite or repropose all your models into Green Plum. We will take a look later and how we can do it, right? So the second key proposition we want to do is to integrate all your data sources from one SQL interface, right? Because there is too much complexity in the data world, right? So there's a lot of different kinds of workloads and different kinds of integrations, which can be quite complex at times when you integrate them together, right? So one of our key purpose is to integrate enhanced data lake with our Green Plum data warehouse features. So we can integrate with different kinds of platforms, which we will introduce and talk about it later, right? So the third thing I think would be interested to a lot of key stakeholders, right? Like how to reduce the enterprise data warehouse cost, right? So costing is always an issue when it comes to procurement approvals and stuff, right? So how do we make sure that we can efficiently spend every single cent of money, and how can we make sure that we can reduce the cost without impacting the performance of the cluster, right? So in a typical data platform setup, this is what you can see how we integrate Green Plum. It is based through, from the left-hand side, you can see that you have data sources. So data sources comes in different kinds of data, right? You can ingest from IoT, you can ingest voice, image, geospatial, JSON, text files, or streaming, or even from queues, right? So within the centralized all data type platform, we will process everything internally. And as you can see, we are platform agnostic. So we are able to be deployed flexibly on any kinds of platform. And then on the right-hand side, we want to improve your ML and analytics portion, right? So we want to see how we can efficiently make use and run your analytics in a more faster and efficient way, right? So this is where the main topics comes, right? What do we mean by any data? So Green Plum actually supports many different kinds of data type. So we are able to ingest a wide range of data types, as you can see from the screen, where from all the way from a standard text file to Parquet to XML, CSV, and we can ingest directly from databases like Oracle, HBase, MySQL, and on the storage side, we are able to store it in different kinds of platform, right? Even on web services like Amazon S3, Google Cloud, etc. So what do we mean by anywhere? Anywhere means that we have one analytics data platform, but we are able to be deployed in any kind of environment, right? As we have mentioned earlier, right? We are platform agnostic. So we are able to have the flexibility to deploy whether on the bare metal machines like in the past, or we are able to deploy in virtual machines and also in cloud, public cloud and private cloud environments, right? So we are also able to work with the Tanzu TKG and Kubernetes to deploy containers for Plum. Right? So how do we make everything work in a centralized platform, right? So when you talk about any data anywhere, right? So Plum comes with a list of features, as we mentioned. So we comes with inbuilt features whereby on day one, once you deploy, you are able to use all these features without having to pay for a complex licensing model, right? As we mentioned, we have a straightforward core licensing model, which means that once you purchase the product, you are able to use the full range of different features without having to worry about additional licensing, right? So one of the key features and packages that comes with Plum would be your madlib, right? I believe most people are quite familiar with madlib functions. So when you deploy Plum, by default, you are able to readily use all the madlib library functions that is deployed together on Plum itself, right? So there is no need to actually recreate all these functions and features that you require. And it means that on day one, your data scientist is able to work immediately on the data models when it is deployed, right? Without having to worry about separate deployments, right? From the text analytics portion, we bring in Apache Solr, which is part of our Plum GPText universe. So a GPText would allows you to run all your text analytics on top of your Plum data. So the powerful or the useful key feature of this is that it runs directly on top of the Plum segments itself, which means that there is no need for you to do any data transfer or data movement in terms of loading and unloading to run your text search. So it will be able to run the text search directly on top of your Plum dataset, which is already in your data warehouse, right? So these are the simple steps that you can see. It just takes about 5 steps for you to run your query text search within the Plum cluster itself without having to configure a separate individual cluster for text analytics. Postgis. So this is more on the spatial analytics. So we do have a list of spatial functions, which is also readily available since day one when you deploy. So the moment you deploy Plum with the Postgis package and configuration, you are able to use all the Postgis packages that is available. Again, this is part of the license that comes with it. So for PostGIS, it is very useful, especially for location-based analytics and data analysis, right? So most of the clients that we have actually make use of this location service as part of their customer marketing, right? So the next one we have would be R. So R would be a very common language that is used by a lot of data scientists to generate part of their data analytics model, right? So we are able to bring the Plum R into the SQL coding, which means that everything will be run through the SQL code and translated into R into Plum system. And again, there is no data movement required, as all your data in the Plum is able to be processed through the madlib and the R function, right? So there's no need for the data scientist to extract the data out from your data lake or any environments just to do processing of R codes itself, right? So Python is another popular language that is used by a lot of data scientists for machine learning. So again, Python is also part of our packages that can be deployed together with Plum. And again, you will be able to do Python processing on top of the full set of data without having to do any data movement itself, right? So we have talked about Apache Solr again. So we talked a little bit about integration with Kafka, right? So Plum has already plugin that allows you to connect your Kafka streams directly to Plum for data loading, right? So Plum has a Kafka connector which allows you to do on day one deployment to be able to immediately draw data from your Kafka topics in your existing environment. So this allows you to do continuous data loading with Kafka, and it allows you to have flexible transformation, and it goes directly into your data warehouse system without having to move your data once again, right? So we have talked a bit about how the Plum and the other features work together. So as you can see, Plum works with a lot of other data products in the ecosystem, right? So the entire, we call it the Plum Galaxy, we actually have a huge ecosystem of supported products with plugins that we can work with. So you can be assured that on day one of deployment, whether you have any other tools that you would like to use, we are able to integrate directly with Plum with all the connectors that is available in the market, right? So we talked a little bit about our main use cases and also our existing customers that we have in the Southeast Asia landscape, right? So in the global side, we also have about 300 over customers across 35 different countries. So we mainly cover federal government service, financial service, industrial manufacturing, and telecoms and media. So these are the 4 specialized areas that we cover for Plum. And as you can see, there is no issues running large production clusters on Plum itself, right? So we easily have large production clusters that is more than 300 servers, and we can easily run on petabytes of data without having to worry about the scaling of Plum, right? So we also support mission critical applications and workload, and we have a +1 exabyte production data under the management itself, right? So to go through a little bit about some of our use cases or existing customers, right? So this is one of the multinational FSI company that we have. So it is one of the biggest customer that we have in today's landscape, right? So we have about 1,077 Plum servers across 51 clusters in the organization, managing about 20 petabytes of data, right? So this project actually also won the CTO Award for innovation, and is also supporting many critical applications in the FSI company, like capital allocation, risk management, wealth management, government reporting, liquidity analysis, and compliance, right? So some of the comments that comes from the customer itself, like from the head of risk, like without Plum, we could not have achieved the regulatory reporting requirements, right? And also from the head of database engineering for the customer, he said that we choose Plum due to its superior query performance. So these are very good kind of endorsement from our customers itself, and it proves that how Plum can work very well in large enterprises, right? So the other one that we would like to talk about is about one of the largest semiconductor manufacturing group, right? So they actually do semiconductor display, mobile, smart TV, and they do research facilities also, right? So in line with the operations semiconductor business, we actually help them to use the yield optimization on top of their production. And they use machine learning for marketing of analytics of their smartphones. So currently they have about 400 Plum servers, both in bare metal and in virtual machines combined, right? So this is also a very large deployment that we have across the region. And they have migrated Oracle after the POC, which reduced the batch of timing from about 24 hours to 5 minutes. So this is one of the use case that we did with them, and they were very happy about it, right? So another one would be one of the major airlines company that we did. So they have a loyalty database system, and they run on very fast workloads and real-time analytics, right? So they actually run Gemfire on top of Greenplum. So Gemfire, as mentioned, is part of one of our data portfolio. So they also run WebLogic reports by line of business direct querying to Greenplum. So all these are actually done in also OLTP format. So it shows that even though we are specialized or enhanced for OLAP, right, we are able to support mixed workloads of reporting such as OLTP requirements. So together with Gemfire, we are able to do a lot of real-time reporting and stuff, right, directly. So with that, I will end the presentation. I would like to see if we have any questions on the chat.